Hey guys, welcome to today's daily premium newsletter for February 14th. So today, crypto surprised us with a very thoughtful Valentine's Day gift. You know, it's been far too long since we've seen green across the board, and it's a welcome reprise, even if it was only a moderate rally in comparison to others we've seen in the past 6 months. The rally can be traced to several reasons. Most importantly, the market is on its feet again. And like a tide slowly receding, the fear that captured the market weeks ago, it's almost like a bad memory at this point. It almost feels like there's some sunlight shining through the bearish clouds. That being said, we are cautiously optimistic and watching for any trend reversal. We simply haven't seen enough trading volume return to the market to declare this a true recovery at this point. So moving on to today's news, we saw several congressional meetings on blockchain and distributed ledger technology as a whole. During the Beyond Bitcoin Emerging Applications for Blockchain Technology hearing, the House Subcommittee on Research and Technology and the Subcommittee on Oversight asked a number of compelling questions. So in terms of takeaways, there were two big ones in terms of what questions they were targeting. First, what have been the prominent use cases so far? And second, how can this technology be used in conjunction with the government? Additionally, there is heavy suggestion of a blockchain advisory group, which would encourage and fund research into uses of the technology within the public sphere. Most surprising to us was the distinct lack of discussion regarding regulation. It was clear the focus was instead on the applications, of which there are many. While no substantial moves were made at today's hearings, the tone echoed that of the CFTC-SEC hearing earlier this month. Quite simply, the US does not want to impede the growth of an impactful new technology, but it must address the potential nefarious and unlawful applications it could have. In other words, work with it and not against it. In the traditional markets, inflation fears, market pressure, and a struggling retail sector drove the dollar index to a 15-month low. It remains to be seen how the cryptocurrency market as a whole will fare in times of uncertainty with other markets. We do believe that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies may be a port in the storm, but that's hard to say, and cryptocurrencies have never weathered a recession. Remember that they were created in 2009. Safer assets, such as precious metals, may be seen as less volatile than digital gold. There were also reports tying the surge in prices to the ease and fears regarding outright bans in Europe and South Korea. The president of the European Central Bank said it was not his organization's job to regulate Bitcoin, while also warning the public about the risks of an asset as volatile as cryptocurrency. Meanwhile, the South Korean government gave the strongest signal to date that it will allow the continued operation of crypto exchanges in the country, despite fears a month ago that there would be a ban on trading. Notably, the central bank chiefs of the G20 member states are expected to discuss cryptocurrencies during a summit in March. Expect a strong market reaction to anything tangible originating from that meeting. No matter what they say or what actions they take, as we've seen from the past, every roadblock that has hindered crypto has only made it bigger and stronger. Expect some wild and crazy days ahead as we start to emerge from this winter lull. And with that, I'll turn it over to Doc.
Good evening, folks. It's Doc for ReadySetCrypto. I'm looking at the dollar index to begin with here. And the way that I do that in TradingView is to go over to here and have the ticker field empty. And then I can either pick stock or futures or Forex or contracts for difference or cryptocurrency index economy. But in this case, what I'm going to do is go over here and pick the dollar currency index. And right now what we're seeing today was a particularly weak day, and we've really for the last several weeks, this is a weekly chart, so going to the daily chart looks even worse. We've been in kind of a decline here in terms of the dollar. So there's various reasons for that. Perhaps, it helps the multinational companies in terms of their products being cheaper. So to some degree, that's a benefit to them. And it helps tourism if the dollar is going down, those kind of things, right? But for our purposes, why we care about this is because this is the other half of the equation for a lot of the pricing. So if we're pricing Bitcoin against the US dollar, if the US dollar goes down by 1% like it is today, then Bitcoin, if it just holds par value, should end up going up just because of the balance. Think of a teeter-totter. So just remember, if you're charting crypto versus the US dollar, on this side. If the US dollar goes down, then your crypto, even if it just retains par value, should go up to retain that balance. Again, if that retains par value, then it'll end up going down because you're looking at the ratio between the two. Now, in some cases, we can't chart it versus the US dollar, so that crypto will go against something like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin. Bitcoin is usually the right choice for something like that. Again, if Bitcoin, say in this case, goes up, and there's going to be cases where we're going to look at today in our top 10 where actually Bitcoin goes up and the coin retains par value, well, that means that it's going to end up going down on the chart. So without further ado, let's look at our crypto top 10. Bitcoin today, this is actually the most positive thing that I have seen in some time. So after we have seen this since mid-December, pretty much selling off with a series of lower highs and lower lows. And what I want to show you here is what's got me excited about this. So first of all, we have broken out above a descending trend line. This is always good because descending trend lines will eventually break to the upside. That's happening right now. Part two of this, and I have to really zoom in on this so you can see what's going on here. But what's happening is a change in polarity. So all of this along here, and whoever called me out for saying, hey, isn't that a high volume candle? It certainly was. So that might have been the reversal right there. I'll talk about the reversal structure in a minute here. So stay tuned for that because it's not necessarily out of the doghouse just yet. So what we did see though, as we got up to the trend line was we saw another lower high, dips back down. There goes the disappointment again. And here we go with as of today, a higher high. So that broke above there. There's a higher high. There's about another hour to go in the trading day before UTC flips over and we're going to start to print new candles. But right now you can kind of clearly see across the board here. Even with the US dollar down, we still have some big numbers that are showing up in crypto. So right now Bitcoin versus the US dollar is up by over 10%. Now, the other thing I like about this is that it's got a fair amount of energy. So I really haven't brought in the chop index much lately in my analysis. I'd rather stick with the price action because that will never, ever, ever lead you astray if you do it right. Now, it's a little bit tougher to do it right. So here's my thing here is that, yeah, there's a couple of other trend lines, and this is, if we look at the average swing length here, this is just coming up to be an average swing length. So this could potentially roll over, create another lower high, and then we go through another disappointment level again. That actually would be good. Hear me out on this for a minute, because if this prints a higher low and maybe retest this trend line from above, that's going to create that point of maximum adversity that we all look for, where people say, all right, I knew it. This is just no good. I give up. I toss my coins in and I'm done with this market. That is precisely when you'll see a move like this occur. So we're not necessarily out of the woods just yet, but I really like what I see. And I believe that tomorrow I might nibble at adding a little bit of a position in some of these coins. Now, one more thing before I leave Bitcoin is I want to go out to a different fractal time frame here. So I'm going to go out to a time frame 5 times bigger. Actually, in this case, it's 7 times bigger. I'm used to a 5-day trading week, but this is 7 times bigger. So this weekly chart has got a lot of information packed into it, more so than the daily chart. And you can also see that this is after this exhaustion signal here. In December, we now actually have restored energy to this chart. Not a ton of it. 50 is a good level. I'd like to see it a little bit higher. And to do that, we need to see a little bit up and down here, a little bit more shake and bake around this level would probably do that. And then this thing is going to be primed for liftoff. I always want to see a big level of energy on here. And you can see that that has always led to a big move in the past. Will it do so in the future? Hard to say. We don't know what the future is going to hold. All we can do is look at the probabilities that when we see a large level of energy, especially above 61, 62 or so, that is going to lead to some pretty big movement. And so we're almost there. So again, like I said, I think it's time to nibble not to put on a full position, but you can start to nibble into a position and then add to it as it proves you right. Okay, let's go through the rest of the top 10 quickly here. Here is Ethereum. Ethereum is up almost 10%, so nine and change. Nice change in polarity there. I like this. I like what I'm seeing on Ethereum. This is not totally out of the woods just yet. This again could form a lower high rollover and spook everybody. That again is not necessarily a bad thing. That's not a bad thing for that to happen, believe it or not. So this is my number one holding, so I'm not going to be adding anything more to Ethereum. Here is Ripple. I also like what I'm seeing on Ripple, although Ripple is just a ugly, ugly chart. And it's just not trending right now. So you can see this beautiful trending movement, stair-stepping action. Breakout into exhaustion, consolidate for a few days. Breakout, consolidate, breakout, consolidate, breakout, and then it was all over. It was just too much. If we look at the weekly chart, we can see the reasons why we had exhaustion, big-time exhaustion at the weekly level. That's just too much, too far, too soon. There's a lot of work that has to be done on Ripple before it's going to start to look anything like a constructive chart again. Here's Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash again, same pattern that we're seeing everywhere else. We're seeing breakout above the trend line, higher low, higher high, change in polarity. That's constructive. That is good. Now, here is today's rock star. Believe it or not, it's Litecoin. Yeah, I know. Litecoin, like one of the most boring currencies out there, is actually today's rock star, up over 34%. This is terrific. Really nice breakout. Actually, still a lot of energy left in this one. My preference would be to see this consolidate for a couple of days before jumping on this one, but this may be a good time to add a little bit. I also have this one in my holdings right now. I've got a fair amount of it, so I'm not looking to add a ton, but this is not a bad add point for Litecoin. Here is Cardano. Again, just really difficult chart to examine, so I'm just going to step right through it. Here is Stellar Lumen, and this one is starting to break above that trend line, that just starting the change in polarity process. Here's Neo, nice breakout today. That's good. I like this higher low here, breakout through the trend line. That's an excellent pattern. So this looks poised for good gains if it's able to break above and beyond. Same comments go with this one as everything else, is that this could still form a lower high rollover, create maximum disappointment. That is not necessarily going to be a bad thing longer term. Here's EOS, same pattern, nice breakout. Here's IOTA, and again, starting to break out above the trend line. I'm going to look at some of the other coins that we do have in our portfolio here. This is Walton Chain. Now, Walton Chain is still paying for the sins of running away while everything else in the market was going nowhere. Bitcoin being up today, actually, this is somewhat up, so it's only up 1%, but think about this for a second. If Walton Chain is up by 1%, that's on top of the denominator in this case, which is Bitcoin being up 10%. So this is actually not doing that badly at all. If we had this charted versus the US dollar, this would be kicking tail to the upside. Here is another of today's rock stars here. Omizigo is doing fabulous, great breakout here, 21%. So fair amount of energy as well too, a fair amount of energy right now. Nice change in polarity, breaking the trend line. These are all the things I've been talking about for weeks now, seemingly without end. This has been a very long, trying bear market that we've been in, but they're absolutely necessary, right? It's just like a forest fire. You have to go through these things so you can rebuild on the new growth. The last one I'll bring up today is Monero. So Monero, we don't talk about this one that much at all, but nice breakout. Again, everything else is looking the same. So this is a good time to nibble. Again, this is a good time to nibble. The bottom appears to be in for now. The bottom appears to be in for now. This can create disappointment by rolling over again. That could happen because we haven't really changed larger time frame polarity as well too. So that could happen one more time, but I think what we've done over the past month plus has been very constructive longer term. Sometimes in markets, well, quite often in markets, what I find is you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. This is precisely what we're seeing right now. Good to see the green candles and the change in polarity and the breakouts and the breakout of trend lines today. This is very positive, very constructive. We'll see if we can build upon this. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll talk to you tomorrow.